Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I've had to do this video a few times. I don't like being angry on video. Like, it's one thing to be excited, it's one thing to be happy, it's one thing to be elated. It's even one thing to be pissed, like to add a certain amount of snark and edge. I don't like to be angry. This video made me angry, and I had to do the take a few times. I'm gonna show it first, but let me just say one point. We as a society really need to come to some kind of conversation on whether we want certain factions of our society to be above other factions. I'm not talking about capital in this case. I'm talking about cops, the people who you have enforcing the law, being somewhat laws unto themselves. There is no situation where you should have a cop with a badge and a gun being by himself with an individual. That is a problem. That's an amazing disparage of power, and it shows a certain amount of trust that the society doesn't show in those people, or at the very least a large segment of society does not have. These people are maniacs. They're maniacs drunk with this idea that they can get away with whatever the hell they want to get away with because they're cops. And to their credit, they've been right. So yes, you can murder a 12-year-old within 2 seconds of getting out of your squad car, talking about Tamir Rice, and you can get off scot-free. Yes, you can murder a kid in Walmart, get off scot-free. Yes, you can choke somebody to death in the middle of New York, and yes, you can get off scot-free. One case after the next, you can find it where the person will murder somebody, the person will be unarmed, and the person will still get off scot-free. I don't want you to think this is just people of color. African Americans may have or minorities may have a higher disparity with regards to cops based on this kind of, their policing tactics. They focus on a particular sector. That sector is economically weaker, so they can't necessarily fight back legally as easy. And also, let's be honest, the Justice Department report showed massive amount of discrimination in those departments. So yes, they focused on minorities. That's the only way you can get a situation where everyone in the country, all demographics, smoke pot around the same amount, and yet minorities are locked up 4 times as much. This particular person is not a minority. Let's take a look. The person being abused in this video is a nurse doing her job, trying to protect your civil liberties. That's an amazing thing, and that woman should be immensely commended for it. Let's take a look.
No.
Do you have an electronic warrant?
No.
No. No to every single one. Hold on, Brad. So I printed this off. This is what I was told to print off. And hold on. Brad, I'm just putting on speaker so you can. So I have this. It says obtaining blood samples for police enforcement from patients suspected to be under the influence. Okay, this is something that you guys agreed to with this hospital. The 3 things that allow us to do that are if you have an electronic warrant, patient consent, or patient under arrest. And neither of those things, the patient can't consent.
All right, that's important. That's what I mean when I said protecting your civil liberties. Apparently, there's some arrangement with the hospital and the police department that unless you have these things, you're not getting this results. So the patient needs to either give consent, the person needs to be under arrest, or there needs to be a warrant out for the person's arrest. None of those things are true. Zilch, she has squat on the guy. And yet, he's harassing this nurse for a blood sample. The nurse told him no, let's see the petulant child behave.
He's told me repeatedly that he doesn't have a warrant and the patient is not under arrest. So I'm just trying to do what I'm supposed to do. That's all. So.
Okay, so I take it without those in place, I'm not going to get blood. Is that? Am I fair to surmise that?
Alex, you're not representing the person possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is he continuing to blame you?
I don't know. I have no idea why he's blaming me. I'm just representing.
Why are you blaming the messenger, sir?
She's the one that has told me no.
Yeah, but sir, you're making a huge mistake right now.
Okay.
Like you're making a huge mistake because you're threatening a nurse.
Okay. No, we're done. We're done. You're under arrest. We're going. We're done.
Sir, I have
We're done. I said we're done. I said we're done. I said we're done.
Hey. I have administration on the way. Sir, hey, please. Whoa. I have
Hey,
administration.
she can sit in my car while they're coming.
This is unnecessary, man.
You're right.
This is my department. And this is completely unnecessary. Completely
Okay,
unnecessary.
she's under arrest.
That's fine, but it doesn't have to be like
her
this.
job? Okay,
That's
I'm
fine.
doing my job.
That's
She
fine.
does hers.
That's fine.
Okay? I'm leaving now with her. Okay? Anybody who wants to prevent that, that's your option. He will be taking them. Okay? So, take your hand off her, please.
I have hospital administration coming. They can talk to you. Sure.
Why are you so? Please, sir, you're hurting me.
Then walk.
No, I have no reason to walk.
Your police force at its finest. Do you feel safe and protected? Do you feel safe and protected? These people are maniacs. These people are maniacs. Yes, a lot of times their ire is directed towards minorities. But it's not just us. It's the society as a whole. You look at the number of people cops murder in this country as opposed to other countries. It is astonishing. It is astonishing. One last point. By the way, there's a response on this. So the New York Times did a story on this one. Now, what do you think the response of the department was going to be? You know, for your own self, when cops do things in society, either murder somebody or something else, for the most part, they get off. Well, of course, they're going to say certain words, but what's the actual brass tacks of, what's the word I'm looking for? Punishment? These guys live a life where they literally put people in prison for a living. This maniac was out on the streets. Understand that. Put that in context. This maniac was out on the streets dealing with individuals that didn't have a video camera on him. How was his behavior? Do you honestly believe that his behavior was somehow different off video as opposed to on video? The guy's a fucking maniac. He should be fired. The police department is probably not going to take it seriously. Chief Brown said in a statement on Friday that he was alarmed by the video. Were you now? They always say that. I want to be clear. We take this very seriously. Whatever. If you take it seriously, fire him. Fire him. You have a maniac on the force who decided to lock up a nurse for doing her job. She explained all of the rules that were set in place between those two organizations. He had no authorization whatsoever to use his arresting authority under the state apparatus to lock her up. Is there a consequence for that or not? Is he legally locking someone up? Illegally confiscating someone? Kidnapping someone? Which is essentially what took place. Is there a consequence when the person who's doing it is a cop? I want to be clear that we take this very seriously. Yeah, I don't believe you. We said, adding, within 24 hours of the incident, Salt Lake City Police Department took steps to ensure this would never happen again. Yeah, I don't know what that means. You mean never happen again on video or never happen again? This maniac is out on the streets. This is not the only maniac that's out on the streets. You believe that this guy was socialized to be this way, left to his own devices. This is not an issue of a bad apple. This is an issue of a systemic problem with how we do law enforcement in this country. There is no situation where that should have taken place. That is beyond insane. That is beyond insane. That's a child throwing a temper tantrum. When they murdered, what was it? The investigation into the police departments in Ohio and Baltimore, both were found to be massively discriminatory in their practices. And you can understand why. Minorities will have lesser power economically in order to fight off those cases, so you can get higher conviction rates. But also, there's a certain racial bias built into the system of sorts. The way these guys congregate with one another. It's a us versus them. Not to mention, you add in some of these guys going on recon missions, like military training and everything else, and then getting military equipment. Is this what you want your police department to be? That's your question. Is this what you want your police department to be? Let's skip past the part you tell me this is a bad apple. It's not a bad apple. It's systemic. This maniac locked up a nurse. None of these things are individuals. These aren't one-offs. There are too many of them that happen to be one-offs. I took one time to put 100 and something videos on Facebook of cops murdering, hurting, injuring, beating, or just flagrantly abusing their authority. And it was easy to do. It happens 20 times a day. I want to upload the video, man. It's just, ask the question again. Is this what you want your police department to be? Is this what you want your society to be? This is terrifying. These people are maniacs. And you've given these maniacs badges and guns, and you've allowed these maniacs to be one-on-one with the civilian population. That woman was doing her job. That's it. She was just doing her job. He wasn't. She still went to jail. Is there going to be a consequence for him misusing his authority in that way? There has to be a consequence. If cops misuse their authority, there has to be a massive response in regards to a consequence in order to prevent them from doing it again. That's the penalty of law enforcement, or that's the modus operandi of law enforcement. Are you telling me that wouldn't be doubly so for the cop himself? The guy should lose his job, and I hope he gets hit by a bus. I'll leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the work through Patreon. Thanks everyone.